Welcome back to the race recap. American ski racing analysis from Some Guy's Garage. We have just finished up the World Cup season leading up to the Olympics. Last week we had two Tuesday races. We had the Kronplatz GS. The ladies were in Italy for a giant slalom, and we had the Schladming night slalom, this time the men's version. Both were great races, and then we finished off last weekend with the Garmisch Ladies Speed Series, the downhill and a Super G. I want to start with Kronplatz. Kronplatz is pretty cool. I like the hill. I like the rolls. I think it's actually a much more challenging hill than TV shows, in that the way the girls coming down the pitch were losing time to the other girls in what looked like really good runs, but they were still losing more time than it looked like in their skiing. And I don't think the snow was breaking down too bad. I just think that hill is challenging, and that every little chatter, every little low pressure just builds up and adds up as the time goes away from them coming into the bottom. What stuck out to me biggest over the weekend was probably the new Rossi ski boots. Tessa Worley had them. Nina O'Brien had them. Rossi is now running a black, maybe purple ski boot. My guess is they don't want to look like the Head boot anymore, because everyone knows that Head basically ripped off the Rossi boot a couple years ago. And so now Rossi's making the move, and Rossi's going back to a colored boot. If you remember back in the day, Rossi had the yellow boot for a really long time. There was even a quick moment where they had a black World Cup boot, but now it looks like they got this kind of like blackish, purplish boot that looks kind of cool. It was like awkward to see. Watching Tessa come down, it looked like she was wearing a rental boot. I think that'll fade over time, and we're going to get used to it, and it's going to look totally normal. Obviously, it worked because Tessa got third. Really good skiing from her. And Sarah Hector appears to be maintaining her excellent giant slalom form and looks to be the clear-cut favorite in GS moving into the Olympics. Really cool to see from her. Petra Vlhova came out and had a really good race. Second place for her, won the first run. She looks really good. She looks ready and is going to be tough to beat in China when it comes to the slalom and the GS. I think that she's going to be a contender in both of those. The American girls, I'm not sure what we're going to see. Mikaela, 5th place. I think Ted, in the broadcast, kind of put it best. Mikaela really struggles when the light is not good. But from what I understand from China is we should expect sunny skies, probably a little bit of wind from what they're talking about with the slope style venue. But if it's clear and sunny and the whole track's lit up, Mikaela's got as good a shot as anybody. But if it's foggy, bumpy, or the shadow comes over and it's tough to see, we'll see. Does Mikaela have the confidence right now to just charge it down some unknown track without perfect light conditions? I don't know. That remains to be seen. Paula Moltzen looks really good. She's fighting through the injury. She's fought through a lot of hard falls this season. She could be a contender come the Olympics, but we'll see. The other girls, we'll see. Hoping for a top 15 out of any one of those girls, and I think that's the best we can hope for. As for the Canadians, Valerie Grenier did not have that excellent form that she had in the GS as she was in before, but she still looks good. She's squared up. She really attacks the fall line, and I think Valerie Grenier is as good of a GS skier as there is on the World Cup. Before we jump over to the men in Schladming, let's take a break and hear from today's sponsor, Outside Ski Pressure.
Do you want outside ski pressure like this? Because I can give it to you. I just put it in this rock and mail it to you. Don't worry, I'm legit. The reason these rocks work is because someone cared deeply about them. I use the ancient Black Hawk tradition of self-actualizing the outside ski pressure into the rock.
Is it in?
Yeah, I think it is. Just pull it out of the package and it's yours.
Outside ski pressure rocks are $600. Each are made special order. Please contact joethedad33@gmail.com for ordering instructions.
The men in Schladming was an excellent race. We did unfortunately see a guy who won the first run, and Christopher Jacobson go out second, third gate because of a straddle in the second run, which is a huge bummer. I really don't like guys winning the first run, then DNF in the second run. It's not a good display of sport to me. I don't love it. His first run, though, Christopher Jacobson's first run was spectacular. The way he threw himself at it, the way he attacked it, the way he maintained his speed. There was one hairpin where it looked like he was falling through it, and he just like was cannonballing down the hill and kept it going, kept it moving. And you know what? When he celebrated in the finish line, when he gave that big like, I kind of knew that he was in trouble there because that was an over celebration. That's the kind of celebration you give after the second run when you've just won the race or just come down with the green light. When you do that the first run, you're kind of tipping your hand a little bit that was you're releasing the energy, saying that like, oh, I did it, oh good, but the job was only half done, and clearly he proved that he didn't get the job done in the second run. Total bummer there. What was cool about Schladming was all of the contenders in the race being spread so far out the field on the second run, especially Manny Feller. He's 27th, moves all the way into third. But Van Aertser, Christofferson, Feuz, those guys were all sprinkled throughout the second run. They weren't just in the top 5 after the first run, but they all ended up in the top 6 after the race because their second runs were so good and they were so clean and strong, and they all moved themselves in. So at the end of the day, you look at the results and you would say, oh, this is a normal World Cup ski race with the top guys, boom, 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 right here at the top. But that's not the way this one went. First run did not go that well for everybody. And then second run, they all kind of showed their class and moved up and put themselves in that top 6 there. Adel McGrath, wow. I did not think we were going to see Adel on the podium in slalom. I didn't know he had it. However, nothing surprises me about this kid at this point. He's watching Lucas Braithen win a slalom, get another podium in slalom, and I think he's so competitive and trains with that guy, obviously, that he believed in himself, knew he could do it, starts bib 38, comes in second in a World Cup. Fantastic skiing, really, really good and clean and fast. I heard from my dad, actually got me this information. Adel had broken his hand training slalom weeks ago. And what had happened is when a gate slaps down, when a slalom gate slap down, they create a hole below the gate. Okay, there's a little hole where the tip of the gate slaps in, you get a little chunky hole. He caught his hand in one of those holes and broke his thumb. So that's why we didn't see Adel for a long time out there on the World Cup. But now he is back and proven that he's not just a contender in GS, he's a contender in slalom. He is just a phenomenal ski racing competitor. It's obvious, and I'm looking forward to seeing if he can back up that slalom result on the future in the World Cup. I don't know if he made the Olympics in slalom. I actually don't think he did. As for the Americans, Ben Ritchie got himself into the second run with a really nice first run. I think he was 11th on the first run. We finally got to watch Ben Ritchie just come down and ski it strong and clean. He didn't ski outside of himself. He didn't ski conservative by any stretch of the imagination, but he put down a solid, clean run. It turns out that's an 11th place fastest run. Like, that's fantastic. Second run, I think the pressure got to him a little bit, and he definitely moved back. However, it was good to see Ben Ritchie making a second run in the World Cup. It's about time. I was bummed that Dave Riding didn't give it a better go. First run was decent, and it looked like he could have made a charge in the second run, but he just didn't have the tempo. Sometimes Dave Riding comes out and just doesn't have the pace. He's got the style, he's got the form, but he just doesn't have it to be quick on his feet. And I think that may be a sign of his age, but I don't know. Whatever, he got his win. He's competed well in a few races, and based on last season, he has these ups and downs, and that's just who Dave Riding is at this point. I was really psyched to see Koroshelov, the Russian, get back on form. He is a dynamite slalom skier. It's been tough to watch him kind of move backwards through the slalom ranks over the last couple of years. I like him being fast. It's good to see the Russians in there, and I think he can maintain this pace because he's always kind of had the pace, but I hope he can maintain it without any straddles. That's kind of been his Achilles heel. If he can just maintain clean finishes, I think he can stay in the top 10 and maybe get himself back starting in the seed, which would be nice to see. As we break from Schladming, let's take another break and hear from another sponsor for today, Course Reports.
Have you ever been to a race without a coach? Have you ever said to yourself, I just want a regular course report today? Have you ever been so late for the start you didn't have time for the course report and wish you just had a course report in your pocket you could have listened to on the chairlift? Well, you need course reports, generic course reports from some guy. We have course reports from some of America's top venues, including Sugarloaf's Narrow Gauge, Park City Seabees, and Snowbird's Competition Hill.
All right, guys, coming out of the start, there's good swing on the first pitch, but you carry good speed onto the road, make a good move going over the road, stacks up just slightly going over the breakover, and then you can really attack that pitch. Now watch out for every combination down here on the bottom. They all come at you quick. Make sure you're skiing this thing all the way to the finish line. Let's go.
All course reports are digitally mastered on a cassette tape and can be shipped to you by U.S. mail. Each course report costs $44. That's $22 a run. To order, email joethedad33@gmail.com. Shipping rates apply.
The ladies in Garmisch was an interesting watch. Now, we were missing some of the top girls. We were missing Sofia Goja. She took that huge fall in the Super G in Cortina, and who knows if she's even going to be able to compete in the Olympics. That fall she took in Cortina was scary. And I would also call it super unnecessary. But that's the way she goes. And I'm not going to tell Goja how to do anything. But it was a scary fall. It looks like she could have strained the meniscus, or not the meniscus, the inside ligament in her knee, both of them maybe. And those are tough to come back from. Those are tough to ski strong with afterwards. And unfortunately, the same thing happened to her last season on her way into the World Championships. So I don't like seeing this from Sofia Goja. It was spectacular watching her ski all season up until this point. And now we're not seeing her, and we don't know if we're going to see her again. And I hope her the best. I hope she can come out in the Olympics and gun at it and hopefully still be the competitor that she was before. Additionally, no Breezy Johnson. Breezy got hurt in that same Cortina race. Not the same race, but the same event. She went off that jump really big. Looks like she landed. Looks like damage might have been done in the landing. It's going to be tough not seeing Breezy Johnson out there. But now our downhill situation changes up quite a bit. Now we go into the Olympics, and the favorites for the downhill, I would say, are Laura Gut and Corinne Suter. And I don't know who else to think. I mean, Kara Weidel is a good big event downhill skier. We'll see if she can maybe throw one in there. And then, who knows, maybe Mikaela has some success in the Slalom and GS, and she can go out there with confidence in the downhill. Maybe Mikaela is going to be a contender out there. And then you always have the Austrians. You got Siebenhofer, you've got Tamara Tippler, and Mirjam Pucher. Pucher's good. Watch out for Pucher. If the downhill in China is smooth and there's a lot of places for Pucher to get her like really long and clean arcs, Pucher could be fast and she could be a threat too. But it really changed things up. You took the top two downhillers. We've lost them to injury coming into the Olympics. Maybe Goja races. Maybe she doesn't. We don't know. But the downhill in the Olympics is going to be a lot different now because we don't have those girls there. Now, those races in Garmisch, we didn't have Goja, Breezy Johnson, Laura Gut. Okay, that's three big names that we're not looking at in that race. Also, Esther Ledeca didn't start, and you always have to count Esther Ledeca in those top tier girls because she's there. So what do you have? You have Corinne Suter, really skiing well. She's a strong skier. She's a consistent skier. Maybe doesn't have always the top end speed, but she is still really, really good. And then I think it's going to be a Swiss-Austrian battle for the podium in the Olympics and the downhill. I just think it's that simple. There's a lot of, and then you got to throw the Italians in there too, but I don't think they have the big speed. Maybe Eileen Crotoni can get it done. Maybe one of the Delago sisters can do something special for us. Who knows? And Federica Brignone. Who knows? I mean, she's a big event girl too. She looks good out there. But if you look at the overall downhill standings right now, it is dramatic how it is clogged up with Austrians, Swiss, and Italian skiers. And a lot of them. And then you had Breezy in there. And then I think the next, in like 10th maybe, or maybe 11th, is one of the French skiers. It's pretty crazy how those three countries are totally dominating the women's speed side. In the Super G in Garmisch, Federica Brignone throws another one down, gets the win, ties with Corinne Hutter. Hutter had a great run. Hutter was good in Garmisch all weekend long, And I don't know if she's getting the starts in the Olympics because she didn't really have the results coming into this weekend. But Hutter was good in the downhill, good in the Super G, wins the ties for the win with Brignone in the Super G. And Hutter had herself a hell of a weekend. Really cool to see that. She was really happy in the finish line. I love seeing that, obviously. Another small field in the Super G there, and you just wonder, okay, so in the Super G, who are the favorites moving into the Olympics? Well, I think Brignone has to be one of your favorites. Laura Gut is one of the other favorites, even though she wasn't racing in Garmisch. And then, well, you got Crotone could be good, and then you got Tamara Tippler, Siebenhofer, Hutter, Corinne Suter. I think the women's Super G might be, also Esther Ledeca. I think the women's Super G might be the most wide open of maybe all the events in the Olympics coming in of who can win. That and maybe the men's slalom, because as we noted in the broadcast at Schladming, we haven't had a repeat slalom winner all season long, and I don't know if we're gonna at this point, but it's wide open. Women's Super G, who knows who's gonna win? We got our favorites, but I don't think it'd be safe to pick anybody at this point. And the same with the men's slalom. Who knows? We got our favorites, but you can't really pick any of them because it's really a wide open game. There are some fantastic videos out on YouTube right now showing the speed track from China. It looks like we're only going to be running a single track just like we did in Pyeongchang for the men and the women, and we're just going to get sick of that hill by the end. I remember in Pyeongchang, by the end of the Olympics, just being sick of that hill over and over again, watching people compete. Now, maybe a little bit better here in Beijing because the women are going to run tech first, the men are going to run speed, and they're going to flip-flop. So maybe we won't just see downhill, Super G, combined, GS, slalom, like we did in Pyeongchang. That kind of got repetitive. Maybe if we're seeing downhill slalom, Super G, GS, right? Maybe that'll be more fun, and we can all enjoy the Beijing festivities a little bit more. But that remains to be seen. That Chinese track does look big. It looks long. It looks like there's a couple of extreme roads on it. So on the men's side, I'm actually looking at Feuz, Dominik Paris, kind of the bigger guys, to be more dominant in the Beijing Olympics just because of those long, flat features. Now, has Dominik Paris had the season to really prove that he should be there yet? No, he's got the one win, but hasn't quite been there every single day. I think Feuz is your clear downhill favorite moving into the Olympics. Super G, it's got to be Odermatt, but Aamodt Kilde is obviously amazing. We'll see what he has to say about it. Men's GS, it's obviously Odermatt. He's got the best chance at winning this thing. Ponero's obviously really good and can figure out new tracks super fast. So maybe Ponero's got a shot at it too. And then Manny Feller's been super awesome all season long. Maybe he can come up with the win. Ladies side, tech side, who are our favorites? Obviously, it's Petra Vlhova. Obviously, it's Mikaela Shiffrin. Okay, in the slalom, it's one of those two girls. Third place, do we see Wendy Holdner on the podium again without a win? Maybe. Maybe Wendy Holdner pulls this one off and wins the Olympic slalom, but never a World Cup. That'd be cool. On the women's GS side, it's got to be Sarah Hector. She's number one. Number two, I don't know. I think number two is a toss-up between Petra, Tessa, and Mikaela. And I think any of those three girls could be on the podium. And then you got to leave Federica Brignone on your list of GS contenders. And I don't know. I think that's about it as far as contenders in the ladies GS. So we'll see how that goes. I think that's going to wrap it up for the race recap for today. Thank you for watching. Looking forward to watching the Olympics. And also, I'm looking forward to some new stuff happening here around the channel. I've been talking with my buddy James Takis. We may be collaborating a little bit more on something. We'll see if that changes the race recap. We'll see if we continue with the same format or not. I don't know. That remains to be seen. But as long as I'm having fun doing it, I'll keep doing it. Tell your friends about this show. Like, subscribe, and keep shredding out there. What do you think, Brett? Yeah, me neither.